Welcome back to Q&A Anime. You're here with Kadir and Akil, and today we're discussing One Piece chapters 1048 and 1049.
That's right, you're getting a double whammy because we had a busy couple of weeks. So make sure to like, subscribe, hit the bell for notifications and updates. And let's start this long discussion. Momo is still shocked that Luffy made such an insane request of him. He's in the middle of telling Luffy it can't be done when he remembers his family and their belief in him. It seems to give him that last push he needs, and he starts giving his all to finding a way to move the island. Meanwhile, Kaido is unfazed by Luffy's giant fist, as you'd expect from Yonko, and is determined to take it head on, won't even dodge.
Yeah, that's right. Kaido then reveals his flaming drum dragon, which is just a giant dragon made of fire surrounding his actual dragon form. And the fire burns the hand that Luffy was using to hold him, but he tells him that it's okay and that he doesn't intend to run, and that he's going to vaporize his fist before it can even come crashing down. And Luffy defiantly says he won't let that happen as he remembers the Ryo he learned in prison, and we see his and Kaido's final attacks clash.
On Nagashima, we see Usopp trying to get Kinemon and Kiku after the water has flooded through, and he begs them, "Don't go dying on me now." Those of you that forgot, Kinemon is a devil fruit user, and so water does not work well with him. The rest of the samurai are cheering on Luffy, and Kawamatsu comments that the nightmare won't end unless Kaido is driven from their land. And we get a flashback to just after Oden's death. We see Kinemon and the other retainers running away crying as Oden is shot, and we see Orochi and Kaido begin their slaughter of the Kozuki clan.
Yeah, Orochi tells Kaido that the retainers are heading to Kuri to protect Momonosuke, and Kaido says that he'll deal with Momo himself. And say what you will about Kaido, but at least he knows that you gotta make sure there's nobody left behind to come back to take you on later. He starts decimating the people right in front of him who are begging him to have mercy, and Orochi tells the pirates to shoot any vermin that dare to defy their shogun. It cuts to after the fire at Oden Castle, and the Kozuki line is declared officially dead. Orochi and Kaido approach the remaining daimyo and make them choose to either help usher in a new Wano or wage war.
And then with zero hesitation, the daimyo, one of which looks like he could be Zoro's dad, all refuse to recognize a shogun that isn't a Kozuki and decide to fight to avenge Oden. We see scenes of Kaido blast breathing tons of troops while Orochi laughs and says it would be an insult to call any of them samurai. The coward he is.
Yeah, honestly.
We see time pass as Kaido orders his men to drag away every able-bodied man to work for him and starts building factories. We see the people suffer as Kaido's acts make the river water turn dark and undrinkable and ruin the land until no crops grow and there's nothing to eat.
Yeah, and then we see the men being worked to death in the prisons, only pushed on by the hope that Toki's words gave them that in 20 years' time, someone will come to free them. And we see Orochi laughing at the starving people who ate the defective smile fruits just because they were so hungry. And just seeing them in pain and suffering but being unable to do anything but laugh afterwards gave Orochi the idea to have all of Ebisu Town follow suit, because he found the idea of them being able to do nothing but grin and laugh while they starve and their loved ones died a perfect fate for the people of Wano. As if we didn't have enough reason to hate Orochi already, just the more we learn. And then we cut back to the present as a burning Orochi prepares to take Kuromasaki, or Hiyori, as we know they're one and the same, with him as he dies.
And then Orochi tells her she shouldn't have underestimated the wrath of the Kurozumi clan, and that he'll see her in hell, and they can drink down together. Before he can get any closer though, Kyoshiro shows up, saves Hiyori, and cuts off Orochi's final remaining head, and we see one of the wishes on a lantern was to make Orochi disappear. And in the final panel, we see that Luffy and Kaido are still clashing, neither one of them showing any signs of giving up.
Yes, and now to switch gears to chapter 1049. So not only do we continue with the Luffy-Kaido clash, but we also get flashbacks to Kaido in the Vodka Kingdom. Mind you, how do we not know why Kaido is going to turn out to be a drunk when he comes from a place called the Vodka Kingdom? And then a little bit of trivia for you guys, but the South Blue region is home to the following characters. We have Captain Kidd, X-Drake, Ace, Sengoku, Bartholomew Kuma, former Admiral Aokiji, and many more.
Oda is feeding us the Rocks flashback crumb by crumb as we learn Kaido was sold to the Marines by his country for his brute strength. And then we see him break loose from the Marines we get his first bounty poster that was listed at 70 million that he got when he was 15. Then he was recruited to the Rocks crew by none other than Whitebeard.
Yes! We already knew Whitebeard, Big Mom, and Kaido were all part of the Rocks crew, but to think it was Whitebeard who was the one that brought Kaido to Rocks is absolutely crazy. And then we fast forward to seeing that the Rocks pirates have fallen, and the word is that Garp beat them all, which we know isn't true because we know that Roger was there as well, and that him and Garp worked together to take out the Rocks crew. It's also likely that Kaido left the fight for some reason, as we see that Big Mom is calling out for him, not sure where he went. And then we also see that Kurozumi Higurashi was once an aide to Kaido. And for those of you who don't remember who she is, she's the old lady who had eaten the clone fruit before Blonde Clay did, and was killed by Kaido after she impersonated Momonosuke in the duel between Oden and Kaido.
Yes, the Kurozumi clan was always garbage.
Always.
If anything, she helped shape Kaido's ideal that brutality is the answer, and he's had the history to back it up. The flashbacks to King was an ominous foreshadowing for the rest of the chapter, as he hints that he knows who Joy Boy is, which contradicts the statement King made where he thinks that Kaido is Joy Boy.
Yes, and then we cut to a shot of the CP0 agent either fleeing the island or going for backup. And you can never tell what these guys are up to as their orders come straight from the very top, but I'm willing to bet his orders were not to run away like a little bitch.
Yes. Speaking of bitches, we finally have Momonosuke calling forth Cloud to move the island like we've waited for him to do the last 4 weeks. And as we predicted way earlier, the water that was released by Jinbei and Raizo has finally made its way to the dome interior, where we see a lot of Devil Fruit users have been swept up and washed away. We called that too, if I remember correctly. And it looks like the water didn't reach the treasure repository where Hiyori and Kyoshiro are standing next to Orochi's severed and burning head. Doesn't look like he'll be making a comeback, which is something that we've wanted to happen for a long time. Isn't that right, Akil?
Absolutely. Listen, we time and time again we're like, oh, finally Orochi's been handled. Orochi comes back. Orochi's been handled. Orochi comes back. We thought he already had him with the sea stone nail, and then he comes back again. I'm glad to see that he's finally done, and that Kyoshiro was the one who got to do it. Considering I'm not to diminish the fact that I know every single one of the retainers was absolutely broken by Oden's loss, but Kyoshiro went from being Denjiro, who looked like a whole different dude, locked himself away for so long and cried with such anguish that his entire facial structure, hair color, everything about him changed. And so I'm glad he finally got to get some revenge and do what he had been waiting all that time to do. The whole reason he even joined Orochi's side, he'd been waiting for this moment, so I'm glad to see he finally got it. But back to what's going on with the story. Everyone could be destroyed at any moment now, as we see that the flame clouds holding up Onigashima has disappeared, meaning that Kaido reached his limit against Luffy at long last, and just in time for Momo to release his flame clouds and pull the island out from under Luffy and Kaido. And just like all the clashes between Luffy and the bad guy, we finally get that sweet image of Luffy punching through the flame dragon, using Ryo so that he doesn't get his hand vaporized.
I just want to comment on the back and forth between Luffy and Kaido here, where Kaido asks Luffy what kind of world he wishes Luffy to make, and Luffy's answer is, a world where my friends can eat as much as they like, which is such a Luffy response considering it has to do with food. To translate, at least as far as I can understand, he means a world where he and his friends are free to do what they want, consume what they want. I kind of like how it's similar to the clash between Doflamingo, because if you guys remember back to chapter, I think 790, he was feeling sick, and that Doflamingo suffocating the island makes him want to puke, and both statements have to do with regaining freedom for others and himself.
Yes, and after that discourse, we cut to the undoubtedly the most satisfying panel of Luffy landing the mightiest hit on Kaido. He punched all the way through the flame dragon right up to Kaido's smug face and sent him smashing down into the ground. And after this, we see Kaido finishing his flashback with King, where he says that Joy Boy is the man who will beat him one day, to which King responds, I don't think that he'll ever appear. But with that, the conclusion to the battle has arrived. Luffy has defeated Kaido, the most powerful creature on Earth.
So there was a lot I was confused about in this last panel that I'm still not sure I fully understand after reading through it multiple times. Mostly because in the second to last page, it looks like Luffy punched Kaido into the ground, but then in the next page, it shows Kaido still falling. So did he land softly onto the ground? and the island was set down next to him? Or was it more like he was just shot into the ground and then you're like, his head hit first and then his body just like fell slowly like after?
I think the first punch that we see, like the one that you're talking about where it looks like he's being punched into the ground, is actually Luffy punching Kaido through the rest of the flaming drum dragon. And then we see Kaido actually fall to the ground. I'm not 100% sure, but that's just how I interpreted it, because it was a bit confusing to me at first too.
Alright, that makes sense to me. Because there's still the rest of the flame dragon that didn't disappear yet. It was just the head that got punched through. Okay, that makes sense. I just find it weird that he was kind of like swirling down, kind of like he was being flushed down a toilet.
Yeah, but I'm sure that's how it felt to Kaido taking his first L ever.
That's true. Alright, so overall, what did you think of the chapter? Was it a satisfying conclusion between Luffy and Kaido in your opinion?
I thought it was a satisfying conclusion. I'm glad to see Kaido finally get whooped, because after all he's done, he definitely had it coming. The fact that Luffy said he wanted a world where his friends can eat as much as they like as he landed the final blow on Kaido was quite fitting, not only as a very Luffy answer like you said before, but also considering the suffering the people of Wano had been facing and how many of them were constantly starving. Additionally, I think it kind of draws parallels to what he said in Fishman Island when he talked about why he didn't want to be a hero, because heroes would be required to share all their food with everyone. And so I think just in a very general sense, it was a very Luffy answer to the question.
Couldn't expect anything less from the main character.
Mm-hmm.
I, in contrast, wasn't too satisfied with the ending because, and correct me if I'm wrong in the comments, but I think that Oda said he wasn't going to have Luffy defeat Kaido with a giant punch. He said I think they had to figure out like a different way to beat Kaido, one that, you know, wasn't a big punch, but here he is defeating Kaido with what is essentially a really big punch. I don't really know what else I could have expected, but it definitely tracks for Luffy as a character, so I guess I can't be too disappointed.
Yeah, that is the truth. And this also means that we are finally approaching the end of the longest One Piece arc, Wano Kuni. And we have been isolated from the rest of the world since the Reverie arc, so we have very little idea what's been going on with the Revolutionary Army, the world government, and other major powers in the world.
On the mark, Akil. The conclusion of Wano just moves us onto the next saga as we finally defeated the two Yonko with the highest bounties, and Luffy and Law fulfilled their goal of the Alliance, making their crews possible enemies. And there's a lot left up in the air for sure, but one thing I'm excited about is for the world's reactions to Luffy, Law, and Kid having beaten the Yonko, which have ruled for decades. We also can't forget that the Marine battleships currently waiting outside of Wano deliver what I think is a buster call on the island, and we also have the island of Zou approaching Wano. So a lot of things are happening, a lot of moving parts.
Yes, assuming that those marine ships for the Buster Call don't get decimated by Zunisha, that might be a real problem for them. And the potential shift between Luffy and Law's crews could definitely be interesting going forward, but I'm hoping since Big Mom wasn't truly defeated yet, the alliance will last a little bit longer. But I guess we'll just have to wait and see what Oda has in store though.
As we're on break next week, your guess for what's gonna happen next is as good as mine. But one thing is for certain, Luffy just took what has so far been the most important step to him becoming the Pirate King.
I couldn't agree more. With this, I'm sure that there will be no more doubts about whether Luffy deserves the title of 5th Yonko, and I'm sure Shanks will be just as proud of him as we are. I think that about covers it for this episode, so Q&A out.
Yep, we'll see you guys in the next episode, and Q&A out.